1 second. Oh, there we go. So let's start this again. Sorry, I was muted there. Getting used to the new technology here. So first of all, welcome everyone to this brand new live stream that we're hosting for Skylines Academy here. And essentially, this really came about, this topic of certifications and Q&A, just talking to a number of people in the study group. There's just a lot of confusion right now around just all the Microsoft certifications that are out there. We know we've got a lot of people studying Azure, for the first time. So where do you begin? What do you do? What are all the resources out there? And certainly at the same time, we want to stick around and I'll be able to, take some questions from you. So with that, let's just begin. And for anybody new to Skylines Academy, maybe wondering, well, who am I? So my name is Nick Colyer. I'm one of the instructors at Skylines Academy. I've been here for over 2 years now working with students. I also do a lot of consulting for a company called Ahead. So I've worked with a lot of enterprise customers in the space. And I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. And currently, we've just trained over 100,000 students at Skylines Academy. So delighted to be here to talk to you more about this. Some resources I'll go through, but we do have the Facebook study group. I highly recommend you go ahead and join that. You can just search Azure Study Group or Skylines Academy in Facebook. If you don't want to jot the link down now, we'll have them later on for you as well. But join that as well. There's over 5,000 students there that are constantly responding to questions, helping each other out, in the Azure certification space. So I definitely encourage you to join. Also, let us know when you passed. One of the big things about Skylines Academy is we do like to promote you heavily whenever you pass an exam. So definitely let us know if we can promote you on Twitter, LinkedIn, if we can put you in touch with the right people. We've got all the social media icons here. Jump into any one that makes sense for you, and we'll definitely get in touch with you. Just saw Gussie in the chat. Yeah, welcome. Great to have you here. So looking forward to giving you some updates here. So let's hit the certification updates as we go through. And first of all, I think it's important just to level set on the role-based certification paths that Microsoft has here. And the purpose of this is they didn't sort of structure the new certifications like the old MCSE, MCSA certifications. They really focused this on what is the role that you're going to have in your job day to day. And so there's a number of tracks that you'll see, and I'll try to help you stitch these together here. For one, there's a developer track. And you'll see there, you start with AZ900, which is optional. We'll talk more about AZ900. That's Azure fundamentals. And you'll see as we look through the other paths, AZ900 is always this fundamentals optional topic to get you going. It's just a basic understanding of cloud computing, really. And then AZ203 is the exam for developing solutions for Microsoft Azure. And there's some changes coming to that one soon as well. The one a lot of people I talked to and have trained, heavily focused on early on was the Azure Admin path. So this is if you want to become an Azure administrator. Again, your path here is that you would take AZ900 and then you would take AZ104 or still AZ103, which is around, but it's going away, and AZ104 will be the new exam. But I'll talk more about those and the curriculum changes there as we get into it. Both of those also lead you to an option to take AZ400, which is the Azure DevOps solution, Azure DevOps Engineer Expert. So that's an expert certification. So you'll see here as well, these are considered associate level certifications here. And then those take you on to this, AZ400, which is an expert certification for a DevOps engineer. Again, think about the role. So if you want to be an admin, this would be the one. If you're more developer focused, this would be the one. And then obviously DevOps bridges the gap between a lot of those roles. So that's why they lead into AZ400. Moving on then, we've got the security focused role. So again, this is a associate level exam. AZ900 optional again, and then you basically take AZ500, which is actually very similar to the AZ104 in a number of ways, but it does have this twist and focus on security. You spend more time in Security Center and other areas there. Moving on, we've got the Azure Architect. This is the expert certification. This is the one a lot of people really see as their end goal. This gives an all-around, view of Azure. You get a lot of hands-on. You get a lot of architecture experience there that you really use. I mean, it's definitely for somebody that's been in Azure for 6 to 9 months. But if you can study really hard, do a lot of labs, then definitely it's a good one to go for. And again, you'll notice here. And this is the end state role, is the solutions architect role, but you don't need to take 104. And now 104, as I'll get into a bit later on, is actually very similar to 303. So if you've taken 104 or 103, you can very easily move into the new architect certification and start your expert. But they are completely separate paths. So if you want to become an architect, this is your path here on the right. If you want to become an admin, this is your path here. But you might want to become an admin first, or at least learn that piece, and then jump over to Azure Architect. Same with Security Admin as well. I'm not going to go into these today. I will just say that we do have some people working on some of the DP 200 and 201 training courses right now. We don't have them live yet. They'll be some months away still, so we are working on those. We'll get back to you once we've got more information. But for those students that obviously take a lot of our Azure certifications, definitely we are looking to expand into these data and AI ones. And if you're interested, maybe you're an author already and you want to kind of spread your wings a little bit, definitely let us know. We're always looking for talented authors to join our crew. So moving on, let's kind of talk about the individual exams in a little bit more detail. So number one, we've got AZ900. Lots and lots of people come to Skylines Academy and take AZ900. It is the beginner certification. It is an optional exam, like I said, for those other certifications later on. But this is aimed at beginners. I actually really encourage people to take it. For a while, there was a lot of people saying, well, it's just it's a blow-off exam. It's just for salespeople. But I think it really gives you that base understanding. If you're coming fresh to cloud computing, you don't have a cloud background at all, I think it's a fantastic exam that Microsoft added to the mix, because it was a little bit of a jump going straight into the Azure administrator exams or expert exams, when you really kind of need to know what are the basics of IaaS, PaaS, all those kind of things. We will share this deck out, but I did link all the exam outlines here, which are important to really see. So let me bring these across to the screen here. And if you look through AZ900, scroll through slowly here. I know that there's a little lag on streaming here. Really, this one focus on number one, understanding cloud concepts. So that's 15 to 20% of the exam. But you'll notice the language when you look at AZ900. It's about describing the benefits and considerations of cloud services. So they're not expecting you to have hands-on experience configuring HA day in, day out, but you should have a good understanding. It's actually really good for directors, VPs that maybe don't have their hands in the space all the time. Salespeople out in the field really like this because it kind of gives them that good background. But you'll go through, understand what is HA, what is DR, what does CapEx mean, what does OpEx mean, what's the difference between IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. A big thing we talk about is the pizza as a service. Hopefully everybody's seen that in the AZ900, or I think we put in the AZ103 as well. It's just a great analogy for describing the differences between IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS there. And then you kind of move on to, public, private, hybrid models, which is just important. A lot of people come in from an on-premises infrastructure and moving up to, public cloud. So it's good for them to know. So just going to check some of the comments here. Hi, Bill. Hi, Vineet. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Yeah, we're excited to start the live stream. So glad you're here. Hopefully stick around for the Q&A at the end, and we'll get to more of the questions there. And then this exam, just continue with AZ900. Then we move on to understanding core Azure services. Now, for me personally, in fact, when I was first learning Azure years and years ago, just understanding what are the regions, what are availability zones, what is a resource group? A resource group, for some reason, took me a long time just to get my head around, coming from VMware background and, where is it? What is this thing? But really it was, a container of resources in Azure that we grouped together. So, I think this is really important, just getting this core understanding, making sure you understand all the core architectural components, and then you sort of move gradually into the core products that are available there. All the things from VMs, compute instances like Azure Container and other things there, Azure App Services, virtual networks, storage, there's so much. I mean, I think what's crazy is when you go through these exams, you just realize how much potential there is in cloud computing, and you can see why there's the big wave, right? They did add some things recently to AZ900, so you'll see here and describe some of the solutions. We had some pieces of this in the course. We are going to expand on it over time, but IoT is one of the big things that's growing. So you do need to now understand, what is IoT Hub, what is IoT Central, etc. Those are big pieces. And then this was also something we expanded on in the course as well, which is understanding your management tools. Because for a while it was really the Azure portal everyone knew. We've taken a lot of strides to add things like the PowerShell guide, the CLI guide, really just knowing that it goes beyond just deploying resources. There are all these management tools there as well. And then in this exam, you get into what's a hot topic right now, obviously, and rightly so, security, privacy, compliance, trust, right? You do need to understand now how Azure secures, what are UDRs, user-defined routes that you can put in place, network security groups, all those things. I think the key difference, I'll just stress again with AZ900, a lot of people may be over-prepared for this exam, though I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because I think it sets you up for the next level exam you go for. But look at the words in the curriculum here. It's very much focused on describe versus implement, and that's something you'll see as we start to cover some of the other ones here shortly. Other things, governance, monitoring, and then you move into pricing and support as well. So, all around, it's a pretty big exam for a fundamentals exam. All I would say again is notice the difference, understand, describe. That's the key piece here. So that's AZ900, and curious how people are getting on with that. We know a lot of people are taking and passing that exam, but I think it's a super great way to begin if you're brand new in your Azure journey. So then we move on to probably one of the hottest exams that people try to take, which is really the target of Azure Administrator Associate certification. I think this is a fantastic certification because it really demonstrates your ability to go hands-on. There's been periods of time where Microsoft puts labs in these exams, so always be prepared to do lab. There's obviously the usual multiple choice questions and pieces as well, but there's a lot to cover here. And to begin with, though, you've got the concept of AZ103 or AZ104. So if we just hit AZ103 here for the moment, what you'll notice is a new version of this exam came out, that was available on April 2nd. So we do have the course already out for AZ104. We have an AZ103 course and an AZ104 course. And we have adapted on some of the other platforms like Udemy and O'Reilly, some of the AZ104 content we've pushed in there as well for you. So you might be asking, well, do I do the AZ103 exam or do I do the AZ104 exam? In fact, people are asking this daily now. There's two things to keep in mind. One, you're certainly going to learn more if you take the AZ104 exam. They added containers in there. Personally, I think it's a welcome refresh to the curriculum. So I think it does prepare you more all around for the role. If you need the certification, maybe you're targeted, maybe it's for your job and you need to get Azure Administrator certification, by all means, take the AZ103. You'll get instant results in your exam. Whereas when you take AZ104, it is a beta exam. So when you click into AZ104 as an example, you'll see it is a beta exam. You can take it now, but because they're not scored immediately, because Microsoft's learning from the exam process, they are going to take a little bit of time to get you your result back. So I think that's just something to think about there as you go through. We will focus mostly going forward, though, on AZ104. Where applicable, we'll put updates back into the AZ103 course, but it is going to be retired very shortly. So naturally, our focus has shifted there. But if we look through here in AZ104, because I think this is where we really want to focus now going forward. One, they've reorganized the curriculum quite a lot, right? For a while, in fact, again, this is why I like the changes to 104. Azure Identities and Governance is number one now, which means you build out your Azure AD infrastructure, you learn to create users and groups, manage guest accounts, configure an AD join. Those kind of things are immediately learned, and that's welcome, because often, before the curriculum, and people gave us this feedback too, was, why am I learning monitoring when I haven't learned how to build anything, right? And I think that makes sense. So yeah, they really focus more on, let's get the core fundamentals right. So Azure AD objects, Role-based access control is here. You will notice one thing. You do not need to know AD Connect and PIM anymore. So AZ-103, AD Connect was in there, at least for a period of time. And in privileged identity management is more applicable to AZ-500, the security exam. But you don't need to know those anymore for AZ-104. So you can kind of ignore those pieces. As we go down, though, subscriptions and governance, you'll see if you've already started your AZ-103 journey, configure policies, configure locks. A lot of this is the same stuff. We've done a few updates around cost management. Some of the billing, actually one of the big things that changed was the URLs for where you go to access your Azure account and where you go for cost management. So we fixed some of that in the training courses as well. And that's a welcome change there. Then you go into implement and manage storage. So here we'll focus on managing storage accounts. No real difference there. There is a move here, and we're seeing some growth in a lot of enterprises here around importing and exporting data into and out of Azure. So you do need to start to understand these Azure jobs that you can do. The one difficulty here is that it's a very hard thing to necessarily do and practice in a lab. So I encourage you to read as much as you can here. You're not necessarily, unless you've got the funds to have a hard drive sent out to you and then you connect it in and put some data on it and send it back up to Azure. It's a little bit of a hard one to learn. So I just encourage you to, go into as much detail into these jobs as you can. The key thing here is it's not a super complicated piece. Essentially they send you the hardware, you plug it into your data center, you copy your data onto it, you send it to Azure, and then they make it available to you. Excuse me. So as we move through storage, then we move on to compute. So all the same stuff from VMs is here, no real difference. The big change though, in fact, two big changes, create and configure containers is here. So you do need to now understand Azure Kubernetes Service and to some degree Azure Container Instances as well. And then create and configure web apps was moved into 104. And if you remember back to the 7533 exam, that included web apps right now. And I think that's just because there's a lot of growth. A lot of customers are using Azure App Services. So it makes sense to include those as well. One of the areas here that is getting a big update, and you've probably already seen this in the courses, is configure and manage virtual networking. So a lot of things remain the same, like peering, all those kind of things. There's a number of new public IP address SKUs. Just make sure you're aware of those. DNS, make sure you know how to configure Azure DNS. That's private and public DNS zones there. And then securing access to your networks. The big new addition to 104, this whole Azure Administrator series actually was the firewall and the Bastion service. That's really come into play as well. So we already have firewall. We've added that to the course already. Bastion service is something I'm looking to record a new video on, pretty shortly here. Load balancing, not too many changes. They did release the App Gateway version 2. And then from a load balancing perspective, this was already out over a year ago now, which was the standard load balancer versus the basic one was introduced. And then we get into monitoring, as you go further down. So I think you'll agree it's a much better curriculum. You will see monitoring and backup is only 10 to 15% of the exam. A lot of your time, is really in networking here, 30 to 35% of the exam. They really want you to understand. You as an Azure administrator really need to have a good, solid background in networking. And I can tell you from experience working with customers out there, it's absolutely critical, that you get that fundamental understanding. There's a lot of mistakes that happen out there as well. So, I think it's important to watch out for that. So that's the administrator certification there. If we go back to the slides here, again, all I would stress is don't sweat it too much if you just can't make up your mind. Just if you're ready to take 103, just go and take it right now. If you want to, take 104 and learn those new concepts, and I'm always just a big fan of the more you know, the more you learn, the better. Learning never ends in this new world we're in anyway. So I would encourage go AZ 104, but just be a little patient. You don't get the high five straight after to say you passed your exam, which I know, for me, when I go take the exams is something, I love to get the results. So that's just something to be aware of. So moving forward then, and some would argue this is the golden exam or certification to go for, right? Which is that solutions expert certification. And this certification was already based off 2 exams. In fact, I've got a A bit of a typo here, so I'm going to just fix this here real quick so I'm very clear with everyone here. So this is the 300. Oh no, that was correct. So there we go. Okay, so back to that. So the main point I was trying to get across here was this is architect focus. It builds upon the Azure Administrator certification, but what I want to stress here is you do not need to take AZ 103 or AZ 104, right? So going back to this Administrator certification, you absolutely do not need to take these exams to start your solutions expert. In fact, I'm going to go right back to the this piece here just to really, drum this home here a little bit. You can just immediately start down this path. If you want to go straight for the solutions expert, you can go there. But if you feel like you want a stepping stone again to hit first, take an AZ 104. You'll get the certification, Azure Administrator Associate, and then I would immediately go across, take AZ 303, because what you will find as we get back to it is AZ 303 has a very similar curriculum to the one I just went through with you for AZ 104. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have questions on that, just post them in the channel. So hey, Paul, nice to have you here as well. Yeah, welcome to the stream. If we go down to the skills measured here, what you will see are a number of pieces that are the same. Now, what they have done a little bit differently is they have kept implement and monitor and Azure infrastructure in this exam. So it's 50 to 55% of the exam for 303. Now, if you look at this, it is so similar to AZ 103, AZ 104. And I'm going to just jump past the monitoring for a second because you'll see it's implement storage accounts, right? Select storage account options, implement shared access signatures. These are all things you would have covered in AZ 103, AZ 104. Few extras here and there. They do expect have a few more pieces covered off, but those are all there. Implement VMs, automate deployment of resources, implement virtual networking as an example. So immediately in this section, the 50 to 55% section here, if you've taken AZ 103, 104, you've probably covered a lot of this information, already. So it's, you might already be halfway there for at least taking the first exam there. As we looked at the course here, just 303 is coming out very soon. We'll have some more information on that in the next week or two here. But what we are doing is, for those coming in brand new, we will start you off by implementing storage accounts, implementing AD. We'll just follow a lot of the 104 curriculum, and then we'll move into this monitoring section, right after that. That is the goal, just to keep the learning, easy for people, coming brand new into it. As you move down in 303, though, you'll see you cover networking a little bit early on. You cover AD a little bit early on here as well. Again, additional options here around security you need to know. But then you get into another section, a big section here, implement management and security solutions, right? So the big changes and additions here compared to if you're coming from the Azure Administrator exams, you do need to now know how to migrate workloads in. There's been a lot of changes to Azure Migrate. That's something I'm working on right now. A few updates to Azure Backup and Azure Update Management. So now you need to know how do I get workloads into Azure? When I get those workloads into Azure, how do I manage them there as well? And then you'll see we go back into load balancing and network security, right? So traffic manager, front door, they add additional pieces here, as well as like NSGs and Bastion that we talked about in the 103, 104 piece. Then we move into governance, no difference there. Again, if you're coming from 103, 104, you'll be right at home there. Key Vault, if you're coming from AZ 500, you definitely would have covered some of this already. So again, these associate exams are a great stepping stone to the 303, and then implement solutions for apps. So this is something I'm also working on heavily right now. How to upgrade a lot of the training material around containers and application infrastructure. And then we move on to data platforms, and that's 10 to 15% of the exam. If we go back, I'm just going to hit back here on the slide for a minute. That's just one exam. You remember, you need to take both 303 and 304. So if you've come from 103, 104, you've got a jump start onto 303, but you still have a lot to cover in 304 as well. And this is the one which really focuses on architecture design, right? So if I go into skills measured for this one, they're expecting you now to be thinking not just about implementing and testing your skills on the keyboard and making sure you know how to do PowerShell commands, etc. The focus here is also on how do I design? How do I think about the solution before it goes into practice? And this is just a helpful thing to get into a habit of. If you're going to be an Azure architect or an expert on your team, and you're working with a number of your customers of IT, and then they're coming to you and saying, okay, I want to build this new solution in Azure. What happens is a lot of times people hack it together really quick. They throw up the compute units, they throw up Azure App Service, or they get containers going, but they haven't really thought through the entire problem, right? And that's where this really focuses. So as you look through here, you've got, you need to design monitoring. This isn't about implementing monitoring now. It's about thinking through, okay, when this application has an outage in the middle of the night, who gets the ticket? How do I optimize to minimize costs there? How do I implement a login solution? How do I integrate with my security tools as well? In fact, that as you leave monitoring and you go into design, identity, and security, you need a recommend solution for single sign-on. What do we use for conditional access? So these are going to be a lot of story-based questions, right? Story-based scenarios that you will basically cover there. Then you go into like design authorization, design governance, tagging, policy, blueprints, design security, how you're going to use Key Vault, maybe use third-party systems, but this is an Azure-focused exam. They are going to expect you to ultimately, focus on those Azure constructs specifically. So there are other tools you can certainly use out there, like HashiCorp. They've got a lot of tools out there, but they are expecting you, to focus on the Azure constructs. Design data storage here. You need to know all the database options available to you. You need to be able to select an appropriate storage account, understand all the data integration. Maybe you're going to recommend solutions that use Azure Data Factory. And then you also need to think about business continuity. So designing that solution for backup and recovery as well. This in particular, Azure Site Recovery has gone through a lot of updates. So you need to think about in Azure recovery, as well as recovering potentially from on-premises to Azure. And so this is all around high availability recovery. When to use availability zones. Look for questions like that, right? In terms of what the goal is of the application. And if it has to be highly available, then, look for those keywords in the stories. And then design and infrastructure. So a lot of this portion of the exam, if you've come from 303, there's a lot of repetition here. We've always struggled a little bit in terms of how much do we repeat in each training course, but you do need to understand in detail all the VM sizes and everything. So you'll learn about them in 303. We'll drum them home again in 304. But then you'll also learn about other compute technologies and more around the decision framework for selecting versus, how do I deploy a VM? So a little bit different there as you move through. So again, all design networks, not implement networks, design app architecture, design migrations, as you go through. So pretty interesting, exam overall. Again, you've got a choice. You can take 300, 301 now, or you can move ahead and take the new curriculum, which is 303 and 304. So I got a couple of questions in the chat here. So we got one here. AZ 103 plus AZ 500 is a good combination. Yeah, I would say so. I think you could take just AZ 500 and you've probably got a lot of the same knowledge as just taking potentially AZ 103 because it builds upon AZ 103. But I still think there's things you learn in AZ 103, 104 that you don't learn in 500. There's things in 500 that you definitely learn that you don't learn in AZ 103, 104, just given the security focus of the exam. So yeah, I would say definitely, more is better than less, right? So I would say, yeah, absolutely. Worth going for both of those. And before I end off here, let's actually cover the 500. And again, it's security focused, right? You immediately get that Azure Security Engineer Associate badge. So I think it gives you a good rounded certification, but it is really Azure Security Technologies, right? So I would certainly talk to security people in your organization, that are maybe going down the CISSP track and others. There's certainly more advanced security certification. So always try to be a little bit careful in saying like this is the be all end all security certification. What it really is it helps you become an Azure security engineer. So you know how to implement security in Microsoft Azure. You do need to know, all the NSGs, the routing, the firewalling, all those things are key. The role-based access controls, the governance policies, all of those things, definitely there. I'll quickly jump into this one as well here. Let me bring this over to the slide here. And if we go through, let me hit there were a few little updates, nothing too crazy recently that Microsoft did here. But if we go through, I'll try to make this a bit bigger so you can see it. You can see still configure AD, but you have to account for app registration as well. You do need to know how to do AD Connect because you're probably bringing identities from on premises. PIM is a big one. I recorded a number of videos on privileged identity management, and I really think this is something to get down. I'm sure you'll get questions on it. I just think it's a critical part of understanding. And I think once you understand it too, it opens up just a lot of potential for what you can basically do, with PIM, right, in your organization. Tenant security goes without saying. Implement, platform protection. So now you're going to implement all that network security we talked about. Host security is interested in AZ 500 because you do go into endpoint security as well, and you learn how to harden VMs. I think this is a welcome, piece to the certification no matter what, because I think it's important for people to understand that. You want to have a drink of coffee quickly. We'll keep going through. Container security. You'll learn about containers, but the key area is how do you expand on that? Microsoft also expects you to understand some of the third-party scanning tools that are available there as well. And then you go into lock-in and some other things. But if you scroll down, the big part that's really different, all the security services, security policies, security alerts, really understanding, Azure, Security Center in as much detail as you can. I know I need to update this video on training. This is another thing that's, it's like a treadmill. Someone once told me, right? Every time you update a video, then Microsoft goes and changes the portal. So doing whatever I can to keep them up to date, but definitely read up on Security Center as well. The last thing I'll mention here, and I'm going to end off on the individual certifications, is this piece on data classification. This is definitely hot right now in the industry, is truly understanding, how you classify your data, what data do you have, how are you retaining that data sovereignty rules, that are enacted by countries and laws that you really need to understand. So I think people often, it's 3 small bullets, but it's a big topic, and frankly important for everybody on this planet that people focus on it. So I think that's critical as well. So that's the Azure certifications. If anyone's got any questions on the path, happy to take them, at this time. Otherwise, I'll sort of move on to the study material. The one thing I would say is I'll just reinforce, these are independent roles. Your goal might be to become a developer, and potentially you focus on DevOps principles, tooling, techniques down here. Maybe you want to become an Azure administrator, then just go ahead and focus straight away on the associate certification. Security admin, focus on AZ 500. I like the question earlier. I think these are great to go together. And maybe move on to Azure Architect, and then here you're going to cover so much information, but just be prepared. This is a lot of work. This is a lot of studying. There's a lot to cover here. It's an enormous course, it's an enormous, set of courses, I should say. And it's just an enormous amount of study time. So just be prepared if you go in for this, have a good plan in place. I think these are all great building blocks. These associate, certifications here, I think are great building blocks, to move on from. So, good luck with those. That's either way you go, congratulations. I think it's amazing when people pass and get certified. And last thing I'll mention here is the AZ 900 again is, definitely take it. If you're just unsure that maybe you don't have the fundamentals in place, you will breeze through it pretty quickly. It's a shorter course. Hit it up, go through it, and you definitely it'll give you that background that you need. Quick question here: will you be providing slides later for the presentation? Yeah, absolutely. We'll upload them and we'll link them into the Facebook and YouTube live sections. Yeah, we'll get those up for you, and I might even do a blog post around this if you guys think it'll be valuable. Just let me know, and I'll in the comments, and I'll I'll try to put a post together that kind of summarizes this. Next thing I want to hit on is the preparation tools. So I did mention building a study plan. I would ask that if any students have really good study plans, please feel free to send them to us. We'll share them with other students. I mean, I think there's nothing more valuable than learning from each other. People in the group post these all the time. We're certainly working on a template for people. Might be out later in the year. But if you guys really have built something that really worked, would love to share it with other people. Blog post preparing for X. If you haven't seen these yet, they're at skylinesacademy.com. We have in the blog section, and you can subscribe to the blog as well. If you go into blog, you'll see like AZ900, we've got availability zones, write in your first PowerShell script, Azure regions, authentication, lots and lots of information here for you. But if we go down, you'll see in here, we do these posts from time to time, which are preparing, for your X exam. Here's preparing for the MS100 M365 exam. Let's keep going down here. I know we've got a few more. Azure storage, by the way, data security authentication is a great post there. We've got a whole ARM templates post. And in fact, I just saw one I want to also just point out to everyone. This one here, how to keep costs down while learning Azure. Hot topic. It's kind of hard to keep those free trial accounts going, we know. So definitely, check this post out, because it does tell you, Matt Boyd wrote this fantastic post, and it talks about all the different things you can do to keep your costs down. But here you go. Here's preparing for the AZ500, preparing for AZ300, 301. We'll have a 303, 304 out. Preparing for your Azure fundamental certification. Here's some of the details on those paths. We'll obviously update these as things change. But this tells you about where the blueprint is, the course, subscription, the post we mentioned, taking practice tests, all those kind of things, all here. Useful resources, any Microsoft resources we can link to. We're a big believer, right? We put a lot of content out there, but we realize there's a ton in the community and a ton that Microsoft puts out as well. So we want to link and share that other content with you as well. I think that's absolutely critical. If we go back here to the slides here, the other big piece, as we go through, is the Skylines Academy study resources as well. So if I go back over to the Skylines Academy website, and if we scroll back to the top here, if you click study material, you can just click it directly or click study guides. I'll hit PowerShell in a minute, but I want to show you these down here. We have a whole bunch of study material. These are linked in the courses as well. But you can see, AZ 301, 300, 500, it should be AZ 104 down here, AZ 103 is down here. So if you want to go into that exam curriculum and know, like if I want to focus on identities and governance, I can click in here, and then we have mapped to every piece of Microsoft documentation the specific areas that address that curriculum, right? From the quick start guides, all those things are here. RBAC policy, everything mentioned, and there are PDFs for these as well. So you can download PDFs for these study guides and keep them handy. And I recommend you go through the course, then you go through each of these links and you read everything, then maybe run through the course one more time, and then perhaps take a practice question or something, which is kind of the next topic there, right? So if we go into study material, you also got to drop down practice questions, get asked over and over again. We do have a bunch. We try to keep them up to date as much as we can. It is a challenging thing to do, but we're doing our best to keep those going. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. But we've got practice questions there, and we've paid third parties to provide some of those to us as well. So lots and lots of information there, on the practice question side. Facebook study group, I mentioned that, the links in the slide, we'll put that in again. And then something we've got coming soon are the Skylines Academy summer sessions that will be available to you. Those will be starting live. I'm not going to tell you exactly when. We'll keep it as a teaser for now, but stay tuned. There's a lot of information coming up around those as well. Going back to the study guides for a minute, we do have something called the PowerShell guide. If you go here, just put your name, email in here. It'll send you the guide, straight away. And you can unsubscribe if you don't want to be on our mailing list. But obviously, we would love you to be, so we can send you more and more of this information and any offers we've got. But if you download this guide, I'll jump over. I'll show you what it includes. We've actually got it up right here. This PowerShell guide is like a mini ebook that gives you lots and lots of information in terms of PowerShell, because it's one thing to, you can go through the course videos, you can try to redo certain topics, try to redo labs on your own. But I think it's really important, just if you go through something like this, it's completely free. There's no charge for this. It teaches you the PowerShell basics in addition to Adam Bertram's posts that we have on the Skylines Academy blog. It'll tell you how to install PowerShell. If you're coming from Azure RM, I know a lot of students told me, hey, your PowerShell was out of date. I was on Azure RM. Got it. We updated it. It's all on the new PowerShell now. So that's all done. But this will teach you how to install PowerShell, how to run it in the Azure portal, local install, all these things here. And then scrolling down, after you get through the installation, I'm just going to jump down here. Then we have all the commands for connect AZ account, disconnect account, get tenant, and this will tell you all the commands and what they do. And I would use this as a cheat sheet, one for just revising for the exam, and then maybe print it out or keep an electronic copy next to your desk when you're working day in day out. And every time you go to try to click in the portal and do something, challenge yourself to pick up the PowerShell guide and try to do it at the command line. And then, as you do more and more things that you do, multiple tasks together, stitching them together, build PowerShell scripts that do lots and lots of these. So let me link these real quick, because there's a lot of people asking in the chat here for these links. So I'm just going to link a couple of these now. We will, like I said, make the whole slide deck available. But here's the PowerShell guide. And let me get the study material one up here for you. As well. So these are going in the chat now for you. So if you want to grab those, like I said, they're there. Let me just check some of the questions that came in here. Let's see. Study guides look really good. Didn't realize you had links or docs. Yeah. Okay. Great. Glad to hear it, Chris, and let us know what else we can do to improve. But appreciate it. Yeah. We Brett and team work exceptionally hard on these. So definitely we appreciate the feedback. Let's have a look what else we've got here. Very educated, Nick. Thanks for live. Yeah, no problem. If these are valuable, we'll continue to do them. So our goal is, as often as we can, but definitely let us know what you want us to cover. I'm happy to jump on, and Brett will be jumping on and doing live sessions as well. And we've got a number of people coming on soon. So it'll be pretty good. What course really dives deep into selecting database options, MI versus IaaS versus Azure DB? I'd say right now that's 301, but I know I absolutely need to do a good update on that course. So stay tuned when 304. It's a little bit away. I mean, I do cover databases and go through all the different pieces there. I've personally been through a few exercises with customers where we've had to go through that decision. So I'll definitely want to share that as much as possible. Chris, you had another question back here. AZ104, AZ500, or AZ303 plus 304 after AZ104? I guess that depends. That's an interesting one. So I certainly think like 303, 304, if you nail those out, that is the ultimate certification. But some people like to have all the badges. So, if you're going to go up to that anyway, and depending on what price you have to pay for the exams, and if you're not concerned about that, then I would do it in the order you've got it. I'll actually go AZ104, get your badge, AZ500, get your security badge, and then march on to becoming that solutions, expert, right? Because you'll have gained a lot from 500 that will be applied to those exams. You'll have gained a ton from AZ104 that will be applied to those exams as well. So I think no wrong answer there, but I think that's a fantastic question. Let me see if I have anything else here. No, we're right into Q&A now. So that was everything I had on the presentation. So thank you for keeping with me there. And let me check what other questions we've got here. Nick Prignano says WVD, so Windows Virtual Desktop. I hear that's pretty hot. I'm also hearing a lot of good things about the new VMware on Azure topic. That's pretty hot these days. Gussie says I'm the best. Well, thank you. Happy to do it over and over. Appreciate the comment. Since Microsoft is rolling out new AZ exams, does it make sense to prepare for? This just depends on timing again. If you are starting now, I think it's probably unrealistic that you would be, just given the scope and breadth of AZ 300, 301, 303, 304. They're such big exams. So I would focus on 303, 304 if you started now. I mean, I think it's months and months of preparation for those exams. I'd try to get your 303, as soon as possible. Again, 300 is going to go away, around about August as well. So I would focus on 303. Only thing I would say is if you feel prepared in a month and you've got all that background, go ahead and take the 300. My understanding, and I definitely check the Microsoft site for this because things do change, is that you could take like the 300 and the 304 and you're okay. I'll double check on that for you. I tend to like to take the groups together, but I've heard that from some people as well, but we'll check on that. My advice, if you're starting now, take your time, do it properly, get the knowledge. It's going to prepare you the best for the future. Dennis Nguyen, which Azure exam would you consider the most difficult or prestigious? I think it is that Azure Solutions Architect path. I mean, there's just so much to cover in there. It's not to say the 103, 104 aren't difficult. They absolutely are, especially with some of the labs you get in those exams too, and can be a little bit tricky. But yeah, I would say the 300, 301, or what is to become the 303, 304 would be the most difficult and probably the most prestigious exam today, unless they bring out a new expert master series. Dave Strum, thanks, Nick. Yeah, thanks for joining, Dave. Great to see you here. And Vineet, for starting on Azure Developer, AZ900 is starting platforms for certification. Yeah, I would say so. If you're coming from, maybe just jump back to that slide again here. We'll break it out. I think this is the golden one that shows all the paths, right? Is no matter where you start, AZ900 is the fundamentals for every path. So if you're brand new to it, then definitely start, with AZ900. So again, we were talking about that earlier. I just think it's a fantastic certification to begin, and just get that all-round knowledge before you go into the next ones. It just gives you that base to go from. And you're not worried about, did I miss something? Was I ready? Did I have a good enough background in Azure? Do I know all the cloud computing terms? That's just my opinion there. So, but yeah, you can see on the left-hand side, it goes down to the developer certification here. Looks like one more question. Nick Prignano, what kind of chair do you have? It is an S Racer. I had to try to upgrade my gear for this live streaming. I'm not going to turn the camera around because there's still a lot of work in progress around here. We're living in some crazy COVID times. Not going to tell you how hard it was to order a chair off Amazon when everything happened, but thankfully I got one, and got one in time for this. So that's great. So with that, one more question. Yeah, I'll take one more, and then I'm gonna call it a day here. So in terms of jobs on offer after say AZ14, what is the best route? Yeah, so I was talking to the team about this, and I think I'm going to write a post. I'll try to do it pretty soon here, and I'd love your feedback. And if you want to, drop me a note in the Facebook group. I try to respond as much as I can there. I think there is this question about what job do I go for, right? How do I get employed, right? We don't take these certifications just for the sake of them. We take them to do our job better, and we want to do really, really good work, right? And for me, when I think about this, I think of my background. I'm happy to share more on this. I came from a small business background, became a Windows Server admin, became a VMware admin, led a VMware team, led an automation team, moved into cloud, very quickly as private cloud was taken off, and then very quickly shifted into Amazon and shortly after Azure, just because I loved it a lot more. And when I think of the jobs I've had along that path, I think becoming an administrator, doing some knock time, working as a day-to-day Windows and VMware engineer, I think was critical to my success, because I got to engage with a number of other teams. I got to engage with ServiceNow teams. I got to engage, with database teams, with networking teams, and I think that was critical, because as long as you understand all the people you're going to work with in that job, and then it helps you kind of advance, and you can grow into that architect, as you have that background. So in terms of the job, I think there's always a first step of, if you're an Azure administrator, there's a lot of cloud administrator jobs, Azure administrator jobs out there today, right? People are looking for people to help admin the environment. Cloud teams are growing. People are transforming their careers right now. So I think from 104, a good job is that Azure administrator or engineer type role, and then you'd sort of grow, either move across to security and focus more there, move up into architecture, depending if that's the route you want to take. No right or wrong answer, but I'll definitely try to write some of this up. Nick Prignana says it well. Crawl, walk, run. I don't think there's any shortcuts here, and I think that's also the difference, like that I see when working and recruiting people, right? Because there aren't shortcuts. People can see through very quickly if you've got a certification and you're applying for an architecture exam, but have no architect role, but have no experience. And these exams are great. They're going to give you a huge jump start, but they're no replacement for experience by any means. And then he says, then fly. Yeah, crawl, walk, run, then fly. I said I was only taking one more, but there are a bunch more coming. So I'm going to try to quickly get through a couple more. What is the best course to start in Azure? I'm a service support engineer. I would go for the AZ 104 there. And if you don't have a background in cloud computing, start off with AZ 900 before you do it. What is the process of certification? So on the website links, it tells you all about how you can take the exams. They're doing a lot of remote exams now, just given everything going on with COVID. So, hope everyone's staying safe and healthy, and, hopefully that we all work in the space. We can, take our exams remote. So, let me just check back. Apparently there's some older questions I might have missed. Study guys are good. Yep, got that one. Thank you so much, Chris. Just checking I didn't miss any others. How many practice exam questions are there on AZ 900? I'd have to double check. Off the top of my head, I'd like to say 90, 100, somewhere in that region. That's the goal typically. Might be closer to 130 now. So, but there's a good bunch there. We gave the links. Just double checking. I did 300, 301. Oh, you did 300, 301. It really depends on your role. I mean, you don't have to go on to another one. AZ 500, you probably have covered everything in 300, 301. But if you want the security badge, that's good. Or AZ 203, if you want to go more after the developer mindset, that's where I would focus there. And I think that is all of them. One more here. Please suggest which one to focus next, AZ 500 or AZ 203 in terms of, I think, the question earlier. So, I mean, security is hot right now. I can't deny it. I mean, I know there's a lot of security vacancies out there. It seems like a lot of questions on the job market. So definitely, I think we will take this information back. I'll try to pull some data together, and I'll write a blog post on this on just career. I think it'll be helpful for everyone. So let's see. You, Amy, and kids stay safe. Yep, thank you. Amy's on the stream here monitoring, so she'll be glad to hear that. So thank you so much. You as well. So yeah. So with that, I think we're going to end off here. I really appreciate everyone taking the time here with us today. Thank you so much. We truly value every person, in the Skylines community. We love the Facebook group. We love watching you guys helping each other out. Anything we can do, our goal is educate, enable, and empower. We don't stop just on the training courses. Let us know what you need. Our goal is to get you ahead in your career and your lives, and whatever we can do to help. So thank you so much. Appreciate you guys being on the stream. Sounds like it was valuable based on the amount of questions, but please provide any additional feedback, and I'll try to get back in front of you guys soon. So thank you so much. Have a good one.